Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be checking out a powerful Love Cup team that helped me climb almost 500 points on Go Battle Day, featuring a pretty unusual Medicham moveset. This team was originally created by Noob Giratina and features a Psycho Cut Medicham running double nuke moves of Dynamic Punch and Psychic. The faster energy generation from Psycho Cut can be quite nice in this meta, as not only does it help you win the mirror, but it can catch opponents off guard. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Psycho Cup Medicham in action in the Love Cup. Hopping to the first match, picking up an incredibly good lead, Miltank into Lickitung. Miltank is going to significantly outpace Lickitung, and on top of that, Miltank is double resisting the fast move damage. Opponent fires off the body slam. Miltank does have quite a bit of bulk to it, able to shake off the damage like it's nothing, and begin the onslaught of body slams onto the Lickitung. Body slam number 1, able to land. I continue to overfarm, and I'm going for body slam number 2. Thanks to rollout generating energy very quickly, Miltank is able to get to a body slam every 9 turns, which is incredibly fast. Lickitung goes for the body slam, Miltank continuing to farm, and I'm already at 2 more body slams here. Going for body slam number 1 into the Lickitung. Miltank makes it to body slam number 2, and this will KO unless my opponent is looking to shield. It KOs. They send in Medicham, and I'm going to save switch into my own Medicham, and my opponent responds with Charizard. This is one of the reasons why I like Psycho Cup Medicham. It's faster than counter Medicham, and a lot of people are not prepared for a Psychic arriving that quickly. Opponent lets the Psychic through, and at that point, the game's over. I can send in my Charizard. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Miltank into Medicham. I'm going to save switch into my own Medicham, and as you're going to notice, thanks to Psycho Cut, I'm able to outpace my opponent's Medicham and reach Psychic. Psychic is able to land. My opponent is going to fire off a charge move. I can let this through because I know I'm going to outpace to the next. They bait with an Ice Punch, and then they're going to send in a Alomomola. So I am very happy to see the Alomomola because obviously my Charizard does not want to see this whatsoever. I'm able to land Dynamic Punch, and Dynamic Punch does hit quite hard in neutral situations. I'm firing off Dynamic Punch number 2. That gets Alomomola low, and thanks to that quick energy gen, Alomomola is actually forced to throw a move versus Medicham, or I would have made it to a third Dynamic Punch. In comes Miltank. Miltank farming up a ton of energy here. I'm hoping that a body slam is going to be enough to KO. Alomomola is very tanky. It is enough to KO. They bring in Medicham. I send in Charizard, and unfortunately, it's an Electrode in the back. So they have a very good counter for my Charizard. I fire off the Blast Burn. I'm able to grab a shield, which is quite nice. I'm going to commit the shield here because I should be able to reach another Blast Burn. And Blast Burn can hopefully grab the final shield from my opponent, because if I can get shields down, then maybe I have a chance. I've gotten some nice chip damage onto their Medi. I'm going to send in the Miltank, and now I need Miltank to try and clutch out this game for me. Body Slam lands onto the Electrode. Electrode is going to fire off a charge move, and I will burn my final shield here. Discharge is going to get shielded. I'm going to overfarm and fire off the Body Slam. This Body Slam will be KOing Electrode. Then I just have to hope. In comes the Medicham. Medicham is low. Oh my goodness. Can I survive the Psychic here? Psychic gets the Miltank low. Miltank hangs on and makes it to the Body Slam. Is this going to be enough to KO? Yes, it is. And that is a good game. Moving into the next match, and we've got mirror leads, Miltank versus Miltank. I'm definitely staying in this matchup as my Charizard in back does not want to see an opposing Miltank. So I'm just going to stay in this matchup and play it out. I'm firing off the Body Slam. Body Slam is going to land onto my opponent, and they're going to return fire with a Body Slam of their own. 3 Body Slams do not quite KO in this matchup. Typically, you will need to land double Body Slam and a Thunderbolt. Important information, it looks like I do win CMP in this matchup, which is quite nice. I land the Body Slam there, and I'm going to let this next one through since they didn't shield either. I'm going to continue to farm. I should now have enough for the Thunderbolt, because this Body Slam I will survive, but I can KO with the Thunderbolt, but my opponent aggressively switches into Medicham. They get the counter through, which means even though I land the Thunderbolt, I get KO'd, and now I can send in the Psycho Cut Medicham. Even though I'm behind by 1 fast move, it's still going to be a CMP tie, because again, Psycho Cut is just incredibly fast at charging energy. I'm going to fire off the Psychic here. My guess is this could be a mirror team, but they're not running Psycho Cut on their Medicham. In that case, I'm just going to land the Psychic, get a bunch of energy on my Charizard, and I should be in a pretty nice spot here. Let's see, do they send in the Miltank Miltank. They do send in the Miltank, and here I fire off the Dragon Claw on the CMP tie, hoping it's gonna KO, but Miltank is too tanky. They're able to hang on, and unfortunately, they do make it to the body slam. I'm gonna let that through. Opponent is gonna send in their Charizard, and I'm firing off the Dragon Claw bait here. Dragon Claw is gonna get the shield. I just have to get the final shield from my opponent here. They're gonna fire off a move. I will commit the shield, and I have the Blast Burn. Blast Burn is going to be fired at my opponent, and this will basically KO if they let it through. Opponent lets it through. I can send in Medicham. These neutral Psycho Cuts applying a lot of fast move pressure, and I can shield here. The Psycho Cut goes through. They get farmed down. In comes the Miltank. It gets farmed down as well, and that's game over. We've got a positive lead in the next match, Miltank into Shadow Slowbro. This matchup is one of the many reasons why you do want to run Thunderbolt on your Miltank, as it just gives it incredible coverage into the current meta. Thunderbolt is going to land, nearly one-shotting the Slowbro. Slowbro will fire off a Psychic. I'm perfectly fine with committing a shield here. I'm going to shield up, farm up quite a bit of energy, and now I'm very close to back-to-back body slams. Firing off the first one, opponent is going to let it through. They send in Medi, so I immediately pivot into my Psycho Cut Medi here. And again, I'm going to be able to outpace the counter Medi, make it to a Psychic, and land a charge move first. Psychic is going to grab a shield from my opponent. They're going to return fire with a Psychic of their own. Honestly, that's perfectly fine by me. And then they send in Charizard, and I'm going for the Psychic as soon as I get there. Again, the speed of Psycho Cut Medi cannot be understated. Charizard goes for the farm down, and that is going to cost them. We make the Dynamic Punch, and we grab the shield. I can just send in Miltank, force them to empty their energy, and then my Charizard will sweep. They actually go for a Dragon Claw. That is not going to KO. Body Slam will get rid of the Charizard. I bring in my Charizard, and the opponent concedes the match. Picking up a pretty decent lead in the next match, Miltank into Slowking. Again, another matchup where having Thunderbolt on Miltank is incredibly helpful, as here I'm able to threaten super effective damage. I'm going straight for the Thunderbolt right off the bat. This does not one-shot, but it would do a lot of damage, so we do see a shield being used by the Slowking. Since they shielded, I'm more than happy to match shields here. I do outpace in this matchup, so I am going to commit the shield and then go for Thunderbolt number 2. Let's see, are they willing to double shield in this matchup? They are! So looks like Miltank may hopefully have some play versus whatever they have in the back. They send in Scrafty, and I will save my energy for later and bring in Charizard. Charizard can comfortably take a foul play, so I'm going to let this through. And then I'm going to overfarm as much as possible, and then fire off the Blast Burn on the CMP tie to their second foul play. This Blast Burn is going to KO, and this way I should be able to reach a second Blast Burn versus the Slowking when they inevitably send it back in. And to be fair, this is going to be resisted, but even a resisted Blast Burn still is quite deadly. Blast Burn is going to get them low. Opponent gets the farm down. I do have some energy on Miltank. I bring in the Miltank, but unfortunately I lose CMP. I wasn't quite sure who won the CMP tie. It is definitely not me. So unfortunately, I am now forced to burn a shield, fire off the body slam. In the back, they have Ariados, and this is another situation where having Psycho Cut can be nice. I get to my Psychic faster, and the Psycho Cuts hit for super effective damage. They go for the lunge to lower my attack, but it's just not going to matter. Medicham makes the Psychic, even debuff that nearly KOs, and from here, the Psycho Cut went through, I survived the lunge, Ariados is KO'd, and that's a good game. Tough lead in the next match, Miltank into Medicham. I'm going to immediately save switch into my Psycho Cut Medi, and so far my opponent is staying in here, and as we know, this works out very nicely for me, as thanks to Psycho Cut outpacing counter, I can win this matchup. I land the Psychic, my opponent is going to fire off a Psychic of their own, perfectly fine by me. They go for the Psychic, that is going to connect. Opponent is now going to send in Electrode, and I'm going to fire off Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch will hit for some solid neutral damage. Electrode looking for the farm down. Medicham able to reach one final charge move, and I'm going to get to grab a shield from my opponent here. Again, the spamminess of Psycho Cut proves to be extremely valuable in this Love Cup meta. They're going to fire off a charge move. They go for the discharge. Miltank is going to fire off the body slam, and if they want to save this energy and actually put it to use, they're going to have to shield, which they do, and now they've given up both shields, and that is fine by me because 2 shield Charizard is just so good in this cup. They are going to aggressively pivot into the Medicham. I save the Body Slam for later, and I'm going to bring in Charizard. My plan is to shield, farm all the way down, and just have an overwhelming amount of energy to crush whatever my opponent has in the back. Even if they send in the Electrode, I can immediately get rid of it with this Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is going to KO in the back. They have Lickitung, and Lickitung is not going to appreciate double Blast Burns from Charizard. Charizard firing off Blast Burn number 1. That's going to land. Charizard makes it to Blast Burn number 2. That's going to be getting rid of the Lickitung, and Charizard gets the win. We've got a mirror lead again in the next match, Miltank versus Miltank. As with before, I definitely want to stay in this lead because my Charizard should hopefully do well versus whatever they have in the back, as long as I can get rid of their Miltank. I fire off the Body Slam. They're going to fire off a Body Slam in return. The Miltank mirror, not the fastest thing in the world, just due to the absolute bulk on this Pokemon. They're going for Body Slam number 2. Again, I'm not going to be shielding here. I don't really want to commit shields to my Miltank unless I absolutely have to. I'm now at the back-to-back Body Slams here. This Body Slam is going to land onto my opponent, and I go for Body Slam number 2, and I win CMP over my opponent. Body Slam is going to get them low. I'm going to let this through, and honestly, I'm perfectly fine with just playing out the zeros here. That Body Slam lands. I'm trying to reach one more Body Slam, and I get there. That is huge. This Body Slam is going to KO as I'm able to win lead. So winning CMP proved to be quite nice there, but opponent sends in their Charizard, and this is scary. So honestly, winning lead may not have been the best thing for me, as now I'm behind on energy in the Charizard mirror. I commit the shield here. They full send the Blast Burn, and I am so happy that I shielded that. Now I'm going to bait with the Dragon Claw to try and get caught up in terms of energy. Dragon Claw does get the shield. That's quite nice. I farm up, but unfortunately, I have a very high rank Charizard, so I almost always lose CMP. My opponent full sends the Blast Burn for a second time, and now I actually should be in a really good spot here. I'm able to get them low. They have their own Medicham in the back, but they are not running Psycho Cut, and that is really good news for me. I'm going to fire off this Blast Burn. Blast Burn is going to land. I farm up, switch, and then catch the move aimed at my Charizard onto my Medicham. Psychic is going to land. Of course, that will hit for neutral damage. And the nice thing is, again, I have Psycho Cut. I outpace. I'm able to make it to this Psychic, and Psychic will be getting my opponent low, and I'm able to get a defense debuff as well. You love to see it. They fire off the Psychic. Psychic gets me low. I am just not able to make it to a move. Charizard is going to win CMP over the Medicham. This Dragon Claw will KO. All they have left is their own Charizard. I farm down as we clutch a very narrow victory. Hopping into the final match, sitting Miltank into Magcargo. Opponent safe switches into Medicham, and I respond with Charizard. If my opponent lands a Psychic, they can force switch here, so I will actually commit the shield. I'm going to overfarm quite a bit of energy, and then I'm going to fire off the Blast Burn. At this point, they've gotten shield advantage. My guess is they're going to let this through, and they do. My opponent is going to send back in Magcargo, and they're on Rock Throw, and these Rock Throws are tearing my Charizard to shreds. I fire off a Dragon Claw. That's not going to do a lot of damage. I'm able to make it to Dragon Claw number 2, but again, this is just not going to do a lot of damage. Magcargo able to get the farm down. I'm going to send in Medicham in the back. My opponent has a Wigglytuff, and a Wigglytuff with 2 shields may end up being a GG for me. I fire off the Body Slam. Body Slam does some nice chip damage, and I will be able to reach quite a few Body Slams in this matchup. I'm going for Body Slam number 2. Opponent commits the shield. That is really good. If I can potentially force a shield with a Thunderbolt here, I may have a chance. I'm going to fire off the Thunderbolt. Opponent commits the shield, and now it's all up to Medicham to try and clinch this game. I will commit the shield. Wigglytuff goes for the Ice Beam. I'm going to have to make sure that I can overfarm enough. Opponent tries to go for a catch onto Magcargo, and I get the back-to-back Dynamic Punches. Dynamic Punch number 1 gets rid of Magcargo, and I have Dynamic Punch number 2 for the Wigglytuff. Dynamic Punch KOs the Wigglytuff and secures the victory. All in all, I do think that Psycho Cut Dynamic Punch Medicham is an extremely underrated moveset for the current Love Cup meta. It also has extremely good synergy with this team, as with Psycho Cut, it allows you to enter a mirror match at an energy disadvantage and still emerge victorious, and with Dynamic Punch, even if you're going up against something like Scrafty, even though you don't have counter, thanks to Dynamic Punch, you can still win that matchup. And on top of that, with the increased speed, some Charizards are just not expecting a Psychic before 16 turns, so you can land a Psychic, and that can potentially be game-changing. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.